Hey everyone, my name's Joy, and I'm a counselor here at Mayfield. Really great that you guys are joining me today. Thank you for coming, and I wanted to walk you through this Who I Am, kind of a reflective activity that you can do. And I'll give you a little background information of how this can be used and then walk you through how to actually do it. This is a great activity you can do on your own, but I encourage you to do it with someone as well, whether that's another person and you do it together or even with a therapist, so that you can have conversations around some of the things that you've reflected on through the activity. The kind of basis for this activity is you'll use just a person profile, and it's an opportunity to help you process and identify maybe messages that have come into your life through your experiences or your connections with other people and how you view yourself or how you view others. And some of those messages can be negative and some of those messages can be positive. There's this idea that as a man thinks, so is he. And the way that our brain is designed, the things that we think about continues to be reinforced, and we live that out in our lives. Um, it's like when you bring in brain science, the saying of like neurons that fire together, wire together. So I want to take these concepts and walk you through what that looks like for your own life. When you have these messages that continue to play over in your head, or you go through an experience and it brings up a thought or idea about yourself or your abilities, this can be an opportunity to reflect on what those messages mean for you. So, using this silhouette, this can be an opportunity to identify what are some negative messages that come up when you're thinking about memories or experiences, how you see yourself in those experiences. That inner critic that can come up and just play that record over and over. Things like, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. What will people think of me? I'm too scared. I'm weak. These are very common messages that so many of us battle. And that can be a way, this exercise can help you try to externalize those messages outside of yourself while trying to identify those positive messages that you want to live into, that you want to become, or that you want to be true about you. So, those positive messages, those things you want to grow into or live out, can be something that you internalize. And this activity can be a great reflective exercise of how to externalize those negative messages and identify those positive messages that you want to internalize. And in that process, being able to identify those things, you can pinpoint areas or messages that you want to start reinforcing. Because the brain's amazing, it can change, and you can change those neural pathways to start living in and becoming those positive messages that you have identified. So, when we talk about internalizing or externalizing messages, to give you some examples, when you internalize a message, it can be a thought that comes across or a message you hear, and you get to choose if you want to believe that to be true for yourself. And when you choose to believe that's true, that's how you're internalizing it, and it becomes a part of you, part of who you think you are or what you do. With externalizing, kind of an example could be, in our society, we see so many standards of success or beauty, and you can choose those advertisements or how the world defines that to say, that's what I need to be in order to be beautiful or successful. You can choose to believe that, or you can make a choice to say, I don't have to believe that that's the only standard. I can still be successful or beautiful if it looks different than what the world is saying it needs to look. So when we get into this exercise, this is not a task of how good you're drawing, which you will see from my own example because I am no way an artist, but I'm just going to draw a simple head up top here and maybe just give myself some shoulders, just a real basic representation of a person, okay? And the idea with this exercise is as you sit there and contemplate, even drawing your figure, you might be an artist and you really get into drawing your silhouette or your person. But if you find yourself starting to judge or criticize even your drawing, that can even be an open door to figure out, like, being curious about what does that mean? What is this inner critic that's coming up, judging, criticizing what I've done here? But using this opportunity to start externalizing some of those criticisms or those lies or those messages that you don't want to believe anymore, that you find actually weigh you down or lower your self-esteem or make you feel not wanted or that you don't belong, you can use the outside here to write those words down as that form of externalizing those messages, making a practical, experiential step to externalize it from who you are as a person. And then the inside of your person can be those messages that are positive, that build up your self-esteem, that promote your self-acceptance of who you are, compassion for yourself, and even just truth about who you are as a person and those that love you and about the relationships you have in your life so that you internalize those positive messages. So I'll just write down a few. Sometimes it can be really common lie that we fight to not believe is that I am weak. Or a message like, I can't do anything right. And I use different colors to maybe even help me differentiate the messages from the inside and the outside more, but you can get creative with this as well. It doesn't have to look any certain way. Maybe a message if you've had a really hard family life, you might believe that I'm not loved. So just writing it on the outside, different places, and you can take as much time as you need to just see what messages come up. You don't have to force it, just anything that comes to the surface. This can be the place you write it down on paper. And then sometimes positive messages, as you look at the negative messages and you're not sure, okay, what's the truth? Like, what do I want to believe? What do I want to live into? You can even look at those negative messages and be like, what's the opposite of that? To help you pinpoint something positive that you want to believe about yourself, internalize, and live out. So with that message, I am weak, I'm going to just put, I am strong. And sometimes, if you're not sure that that's really true, you can think about ways that you've demonstrated that in your life. Like, I got good grades, or I was able to overcome something really hard in my life and not let it hold me back. Those are evidences of how you've lived your life, like as a strong person. I'm not loved. Maybe saying like, I have friends that enjoy hanging out with me. Or my family calls and texts me all the time to see how I'm doing. This can even be positive messages about kind of your abilities as a human being, because we all have unique abilities that are special and needed in our world, in our relationships, and being able to even pinpoint some of those skills can be a great way to boost your confidence and your self-esteem of the dignity you have as a person and what you bring to this world that no one else brings. So this is just a real basic example, but you can kind of see how this time of reflection can help you identify those messages that are unhelpful or that hold you back from living into the person that you want to become and who you want to grow into, and who you already are. So keep that in mind. And these positive messages can be something that you continue to think on, especially when that inner critic's voice gets really loud. You can go back to these positive messages as a way to silence that inner critic and weaken its hold on your own mindset, and start reinforcing those positive messages about who you are, which over time is going to change your brain and the way you see things and the way you see yourself. And this can be a great way to also live more authentically in your relationships with people, because if you're living out of those positive messages, that's going to open you up more for connection. Whereas those negative messages that we live into oftentimes cause us, whether we realize it or not, to isolate. and withdraw from our world and our relationships and our experiences. Well, I really appreciate you guys joining me today to walk through this exercise. And my hope for you when you practice this exercise is that it just provides a meaningful time of reflection and understanding who you are and encouragement for what is ahead of you. So thank you so much for joining.